welcome to another video. Today we're going to be talking about a little bit about my background, how I came around cars, my childhood back then in Puerto Rico, and some lessons you can take away from it. So these are going to be the hard times that created the easiest times in my life. Check it out. So I was born in Bayamon, Puerto Rico. It's a small little place in Puerto Rico, not too far away from where I grew up in, Toaja, Puerto Rico. So Toaja, Puerto Rico, most people would probably say where I used to live is kind of a little bit on the ghetto side, the poorer side of Puerto Rico. But I got used to this area quite frequently. Obviously, I used to hang around here a lot, met most of my closest friends through here, went to elementary school and middle school in this time. And my first console would actually be my PSP, where I would play Need for Speed. Dragon Ball Z was birthed around this area too. I didn't know Dragon Ball Z that well, but I loved playing Dragon Ball Z on my PSP. And I think Death Jr. was very popular back then. I remember that game. Very fun game. And playing basketball a lot. Gaming wasn't really as booming back then, at least for me. I don't know if that was because of the fact that I was poor, but eventually I did grow up to own better consoles like the Xbox 360 and the PlayStation 2, but I would constantly bring my PSP with me. So in elementary school and in middle school, what I would do frequently is drawing. I would constantly be studying for my classes because my mom really enforced me a lot to get good grades in school. This was a little bit of a detriment to me because of the fact that I had a creative side of me when it came to drawing. I didn't really like school that much, but my mom always told me if I did well in school, maybe someday out in the United States, I'd get a good job or something like that. There was always that ambition my mom always set inside of me, which I appreciated her for. Most of the time she would be kind of left and right, meaning like mad sometimes. Some other times she would be encouraging. And I think this was due because of the fact that we were living a stressful life. You know, my mom was barely being able to afford certain things. And the constant hurricanes and stuff like that. It was just very overwhelming. My mom would constantly switch cars and always having car problems. I remember that for sure. Always arguing with my stepdad as I grew up older. I remember light memories of my biological dad, but those light memories would be like watching Rugrats on VHS and driving around in a Barbie 4x4 electric toy car. You guys know what those look already for kids. And just crawling around in the carpet, hanging out with my brother a lot. I have a twin brother, by the way, so that's going to be a part of this story too. My twin brother, absolute blessing in my life. That dog is my homie, always next to me all the time, encouraging me, making friends that I would constantly hang around with too, to avoid being alone. You know, he was always my left hand, always being there for me, always being my scrub on the back. That guy is an absolute legend when I was growing up. And in this time in my life, I was constantly shy. You know, the birth of me being shy came from mostly doing a lot of presentations by myself and just do a lot of public speaking. I just really didn't like public speaking a lot. I hated it. And I was constantly shy, closed off, didn't like talking to much people, just focused on my work. And always having that ambition of doing something than just working and studying for school stuff. It just annoys me. It still annoys me just doing work meaninglessly. But anyhow, at this point in my life, my relationships grew stronger with two people, Santiago and Elmel. These people grew up to be my friends for a very long time. As I grew up older into middle school, got my first crush, dated that person. Well, actually, I got my first girlfriend first. She cheated on me. Then I got my second crush in middle school. That didn't work out too well. Wah wah. What else in middle school do I remember? Oh, they used to do this thing where they would have locked up gates in Jose Roble Otero. Very common middle school in Puerto Rico. You guys can look up photos of this. It was a gated school. And what they would do really often was throw chocolate milk over the gates. It would hit somebody in the back of the head because they would always run out the gates on school buses. It's a very weird way that they do it back in Puerto Rico when it comes to school. But I would say it's not very different from here, but it's definitely, I mean, for that age, it was probably different back then. But anyhow. So in middle school, now at this point, I'm growing a lot older. I'm growing up in the area of liking cars. I was playing Need for Speed, Pro Street, on the Xbox 360 pretty frequently, Stuntman on the Xbox 360, and Need for Speed Underground 2 on the PlayStation 2, and Mortal Kombat. The inspiration of Mortal Kombat came from my stepfather. He absolutely loves Mortal Kombat and Street Fighter, and I grew that from him. Here, in my area of my life, I was probably 10 or 11. I really, really enjoyed racing games, Mortal Kombat, drawing a lot harder stuff. So I would do paintings. I started using Sharpies for actual drawing pieces, and it would just be on paper too. I never stopped being creative when I was younger. Never stopped. I always kept on grabbing a piece of paper, drawing, putting it in a binder, closing it, stashing it away. If I had to say how much drawings I probably made, it would say a pretty decent amount of time. And I kind of do it now as a hobby, but not as depth as I was back then because I had so much free time of doing that stuff. I remember now as I grow in my teenage years, I would have birthday parties. My father, biological father at this point, would always show up constantly drunk and causing a ruckus around my family. And I remember light memories of him pulling up in his Mitsubishi Lancer and getting drunk and just being like, oh, I want to see my children. And my mom would say, oh, well, you can't see your children. You're drunk. You're messed up right now. My stepdad pushing him, causing an aggravation and stuff like that. Just light memories of this stuff, remembering him being an alcoholic. But even when he was an alcoholic, he'd always was a lovable father. But my stepfather wasn't any better either. And my stepfather was an abuser. He grew out of that now, thankfully. And that's God's blessing for sure, because he knew that that relationship that he had with my mom was a blessing of its own. Eventually, he grew up out of being an abuser, doing with a lot of illegal stuff. And he actually became a father over time. And I saw this, even if it was constantly seeing my mom being abused by him and stuff like that. It stopped eventually as I grew older, but that's going to be for the second part of this video, which you can catch either tomorrow or sometime Wednesday. So at this point in my life, I'm growing up a lot older, and my mom says we have enough money. We can actually go to the United States and actually start a life. And I was like, Mom, I don't really want to start a life in the United States. I have friends down here and I love them, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But my mom knew that staying in that area, especially back then in the early 2000s or the early 2010s, it wasn't going to benefit me. There was already people in their teenage years getting pregnant, going to jail, or being dead. And my parents didn't want that for me at all. So we moved out here to the U.S., staying on my grandma's house. And I eventually found more personality to myself here. I really started deep in depth into my drawings. A lot of people loved my drawings. I started painting a lot more in high school, where it would get hung at the high school. And a lot of people just loved my work. At this point in high school too, I would really start making my own friends and really start opening up little by little, but not getting outside of the boundary of being friendly, but more as of like being an acquaintance, if that makes any sense. And I met a lot of people. I met probably like a total of like 20 people, 15 people in my life in high school. These people, little did I know, became bad inspirations in my life, and some I still talk to today. But some of these people end up being bad inspirations, meaning I started smoking throughout this age, started drinking at this age, I started partying on the weekends, and it was just bad. And I hated doing this because it would ruin my creative aspects and ruin my colorfulness, my joyness, my transparency. I just started becoming bitter and angry and resentful towards people. So at this point in my life, from freshman to sophomore year or junior year, freshman to like junior year, I would constantly be doing this stuff, thinking that it was okay. I would constantly start dating girls, figuring out what I liked, figuring out what I didn't like. So it was like a curiosity stage, like everybody has a curiosity stage, and it just changed me. But I would say it would change me for the better, because there was lessons I could learn out of each friendship and out of each relationship that I was in. And it was always the fact of, what about me? It always had this feeling of, what about me? Not in a selfish ambition, but in an idea of character, of building character. So at this point in my life, senior year, you get those friends that say hi and then they say bye and they find their own paths and stuff. And I was by myself again. I was by myself at this time again. And I started leaning into, what did I really want for myself? What did I really truly wanted to grow into? And at this point, I started taking little actions in areas where I didn't really feel comfortable in. So like singing, writing poems, reading books. I just really started finching into areas where I didn't really like. But one thing clicked to me at this day and age. One thing clicked to me at that date, and it was the last day of high school, where I said bye to specific people, and I was on graduation day. Something clicked, and it told me I wanted to work on cars. I really wanted to work on cars. So I graduated, and I started pursuing stuff like graphic design, photography, and then automotive, and that's where I went to Porter and Chester. And stay tuned for part 2. So there's going to be a part 2 to the series. Look into that. That's going to be uploaded between tomorrow or Wednesday, and that's going to vary. If you guys are interested in the rest of this story, the second part is going to talk about the birth of my automotive knowledge, the birth of my automotive enjoyness, and just a bunch of other stuff that you're going to know more about me. The lessons that you can learn out of this video today, if you're paying attention, is 3 easy lessons that created me the man that I am today. And we'll go through the same ones for the second part too. Number 1, the ambitious people that you see in your life, pay attention to that. I saw my mom constantly hardworking, and I saw my dad constantly hardworking too. And struggling, you know. There was a point in my life where in Salinas, when my mom was trying to escape my stepdad when they were arguing, we sold water bottles on the highway for many hours, and we made money to get a sandwich so we all could get fed. And when you're experiencing this at a young age, it teaches you that no matter what you do, there's always a way out. There's always a way out of the situation that you're in. You just got to think outside of the box and see how ambitious you are to chase that thing. And my mom never failed to tell me that. And my mom never failed to show me that either. My mom was always showing me love, showing me kindness, and showing me motivation. And no matter what area I was in my life, even if he had to slap me with a ruler and tell me, no, that's not right, you know, she always showed me discipline. And you need a parent like that always. Number 2, have friends that motivate you. Don't hang around people that bring you down, give you lack of empathy, and don't want to see you to do well. When you're around people that don't see the vision that you want, that does fuel the fire within you to push, but being around that constantly also turns off the fire inside of you. Let that fire keep burning, and have people around you that see the vision that you see. You see that plenty of times with a lot of people who've gotten very well known. Logic, he had somebody that looked up to him and see better in him. Drake, Kendrick Lamar, there was always somebody that saw something in them, that they were more than just a basic human being. You need that person. Number 3, you have to be a person in your life that sees the vision. Be delusional. I saw that within myself when I was drawing, doing schoolwork, going to numerous colleges, going around numerous people, but I always saw something within me that would start that fire to see something differently. Never stop chasing the stuff that you want, and never stop encouraging yourself. There's going to be bad days out there, and they're going to suck. And they're going to make you want to cry and throw fists around in your room looking like you're doing a mosh pit or something. But never stop pursuing the stuff that you love. no matter what. No matter if it rains, no matter if it shines, no matter if there's a tornado in the middle of your house. Never stop pursuing those things, because in the Bible it says you will reap what you sow. If you're consistent, you're doing it in a loving way, and you're motivating other people, and you're delusional in the prospects that you are, you will see the results. And when I was young, I saw that result. And I saw the vision. Did I have the money for it? No. Did I have the time for it? No, I was so focused in school, but I had that drive, and that's all that matters. Stay tuned for part 2. I love you guys, already know. God loves you too. Drop a comment below of anything you question about my childhood. I'd be more than gladly answer it to motivate somebody here today. I love you guys. God loves you too. Peace out.